Hey guys, Darren here again from Carl's Speed Shop. Just wanted to take you through another project that we've got on the go at the moment, which is a 52 Pontiac four-door sedan that we're doing for a customer. So Mason will come in later on and give you some of the detail about what we've been doing on it, but just wanted to give you an overview because you'll follow along with this one for the next probably 3 to 6 months or so. We're going to try and get this one done fairly quickly for the client for other reasons that I won't go into. But yeah, look, at this stage, the customer came to us with a really clean original driving car, like 6-cylinder, 3-speed. It was just a pristine, like a restored vehicle. We've then proceeded to cut the thing completely apart. So we'll look at the body shell later on, but first and foremost, the customer had a vision of wanting a modern slant on a lead sled, I suppose is what you'd call it. So we have done a roof chop, and of course the thing's got airbags. Some of the brief that he gave us was those things like must have disc brakes, must have power steering, wanted an LS, wanted reliability and horsepower with the engine, so we're going with an LS and turbo 400 combo, and we've then made it up a pretty stout sort of 9-inch to handle that. A lot of the chassis fab is done at this stage, so I might sort of bring Mason in to talk a bit about some of the stuff that we've done on the chassis, which you'll see in the video here. So,
how you going, guys? Mason here. Alright, we'll start at the front end. So we've decided to leave the standard front end in the car just because the geometry on the 52 Pontiacs, they're slightly wider in the chassis rails, which makes it kind of hard to put a Jag front in them or a Holden front end. So we ended up leaving it with the standard front end, but we've added the disc brakes and we've done a full airbag system on the front there for it. The brakes we got from Hoppers Stoppers, so nice Australian company. They had a kit for it, bolted straight up. With the steering on it, the customer specifically said that he wanted power steering on the car. So instead of putting a rack on it, just because it would have been mounted way too far back, we've actually got a XA Falcon power steering box, mated up to a HQ Pitman arm, and that then goes straight onto the original steering drag link and everything. So moving on from the steering, we sort of go back into the middle of the car. We've boxed it right through the centre and done a big K-frame. We've already mounted the LS and turbo 400 in the car, so you can see some mounts back at the front there and the gearbox mount in the setter. With the K-frame, we actually put the K-frame in before we did all the boxing, so it's welded into the chassis and then the boxing plate, and it's welded to the boxing plate as well, so it's a bit of a double shear sort of setup on it. We decided to remove the original K-frame from the car just because it was fairly flimsy. It was only about 0.9 thick material, and being that it's fully airbagged now and the LS is going to be fairly stout, we've just decided to go ahead and do the full RHS K-frame on it. We've put a triangulated forelink in the car just to get a good range of motion with the airbags in the rear. It's not gonna lay frame, but it will be fairly low, the car. We decided to keep it with the factory step up in the car because he's got quite a large step up. The car should sit aired out about 50 mil off the ground. So yeah, we've got the 9-inch in the back with a aluminium centre in it. I believe we've got a set of 3.5 gears in it from memory. And in the back here we'll be redoing all the floors for the body, just with all the airbag system, and we'll put a tank in under the chassis mounted at the back here, that's the tank there. And yeah, sort of the next things that we've got to do on the car is mount the body back on the car, do a big tunnel in it and redo the boot floors, and then we'll be starting exhaust and yeah, getting it moving. So
just wanted to show you a little bit of what we've done to the body so far. Before, it's obviously just come back from sandblasting. We use a local sandblaster who blasts and epoxies it for us. Yeah, and as we talked about earlier, it like really clean original car. There's tiny little bits of rust here or there, but overall really surprisingly good. So it's had some sort of resto beforehand. But anyway, on to what we've done. Probably the biggest notable change about the car is going to be the roof chop. There won't be a great deal of other body mods to it. There'll be little things like fuel filler door and so forth, but yeah, there was certainly the main one is the roof chop. And for anyone who's ever been involved in a roof chop, doing a 4-door sedan certainly has its challenges. There's a lot of hours in it. We've ended up taking, I think it was 3.5 inches out of the front, and then we've taken 4 inches out of the back. So it's actually given a little bit of that sort of tail dragger type look to it, but without going overboard on the roof chop. A lot of time was spent, you know, chop here, stand back, have a look at the shapes, talk to the customer, just see whether he was happy with the overall shapes, and we all ended up coming up with the decision that where we're at is right. There's a couple little, you know, challenges in it. The customer wanted to retain all of the trim that goes around the back of the body here. So to do that, we knew that any changes and modifications we made had to be from there up. Whereas a lot of people delete all this section here, we had to try and retain it. So we ended up doing a little bit of a trick that I've done on another car back in the day when I did a roof chop on a 54 Chevy. The rear window, when we took it out and braced it all up, we actually flipped it upside down, and then we've laid it back down into the roof. The curves worked really well for us. The crown that met the top of the roof worked out really well. It just kind of worked. So I think Paul, who did the majority of the work, he was a little bit surprised when I said to him that because he was in a real quandary as to what he could do as far as the shapes of the roof just weren't working for him, and I said, turn it upside down. And he's sort of going, what? And then flipped it upside down and sort of went, wow, you know, that works. So for those who follow along with us, we recently had Voodoo Larry from Chicago in the States over here, who's I think he said he's done 160 odd roof chops in his lifetime and in his shop, and he was quite impressed that we'd use the little tricks like that. So I think he's talking about coming back to do a roof chop and maybe collaborate with us on a roof chop in the coming 12 months. So watch this space. But yeah, we're really happy with the overall result that we've ended up with here. I think the shapes of the roof look good. Once we get this thing sort of sitting on its belly, essentially on the ground, I think everyone will be really impressed with the lines of the car. So yeah, a lot of work done already, but still a lot of work to go. We're going to be reworking some wheel tubs and inner quarters, boot floors, stuff like that. So we'll keep you informed over the coming weeks.